Hey guys, welcome back to Happy Connections. My name is Kayla, and today I would love to talk about my meditation journey because it's exactly that. It wasn't like I woke up one day and I was able to meditate for several hours. No, although that would have been cool. But it was actually a transition, a process for me, moving from actually being very afraid to meditate because of how I felt in my body, all the way to meditating for hours on end and eventually discovering other ways of meditation and reflection, which have been absolutely, I would say, transformative for my personal life, especially my emotional and mental health. So I first got into meditation seriously around COVID, just because the whole world had stopped, and in New York there just wasn't much to do and there was definitely nowhere to go. And so from that point forward, I just had a lot of time, I wouldn't say to myself, but it was just, there wasn't school to go to. I didn't have to rush anywhere. I was quite literally just hunkered down at one specific space. And so just like I would do in the summer times, I started to really wake up early and with the sun and just breathe. Or even before I started my classes for the day, I would just sit facing the window, just listen to the birds chirping, and just watch the world kind of wake up. Although it was weird because it was really quiet. But it was honestly an opportunity for me to get myself together and a little bit grounded before the day had started. The true first time I meditated was, I think, maybe my first or second year in high school. And I would just listen to a teacher. She was like, you just need to calm down. I was full of anxiety at that time. And she's like, just take some really deep breaths. Just breathe, hold it, and like let your mind go still and blank. And I did it on the bus, and I felt complete stillness, and I started to freak out. I started to panic. I thought I was gonna die. It sounds so stupid, but it's so true. And I told her that, and she was like, but I think that's what really kicked off that journey for me. And so fast forward like 4 years, and it's now my senior year of high school. And I started to create those routines for myself, just to give myself some breathing room, because in the house, everyone was there and everyone was close together. And it was just a lot. It was a lot. That then transitioned into following a meditation group that was really close to my mother. I'm gonna shout out them, The Owl Awakening and Rumani. She was absolutely phenomenal at putting together weekly meditations. And for the first time, it wasn't just about me having that body awareness or calming my breath or just, I don't know, just building that like singular individual awareness. Her meditations were guided. It was about connecting to something bigger. And I started to see my meditations as expansive, as actually very creative. And I didn't know that meditation could feel like that. And so it would be done with a group on Zoom. And it was just amazing to hear about people's reflection on their meditation journey and what they experienced and how they felt. And I could feel the same things as well. And so that was a more structured period for me. Then when I entered college and I started to work really early hours, I would be the person opening the buildings on campus before classes and stuff. So I'd wake up at 5 and I would be really afraid because it was just me and there wouldn't be really much else, or nobody else awake. And so I started to listen to affirmations. I didn't want to listen to music because I was very afraid that I wouldn't hear if someone was coming up behind me, if they were walking around the place. And so just hearing someone talk I felt a much safer way without feeling alone. And I have to shout out Jason Stephenson. He makes really long meditations, but at the time he didn't have as much content. And I would just listen to those 2-3 hour meditations from the time I got up till the time my shift ended, which is when I think the sun would start to rise, so closer to 8 a.m. And that kind of kept me company. And in some kind of way, they were like subliminals, because I really wasn't awake, nor was I very focused on what he was saying. But that was a good introduction for me to longer meditations on hearing the words he was saying, kind of checking in, then checking out, still breathing, having that as my background noise rather than music was a very different sensation. And then I elevated from that, where kind of like semi-conscious, still listening, I felt it was very positive messaging, into frequencies that were actually made for meditation. And I would intentionally sit in my dorm room and face the window and start to listen to these frequencies and then ground myself. And then the same way Rumani had taught or explained to me, I would then try to seek that for myself. And oh my gosh, I think that just raised my like it was like little by little progress, but that raised the level of my meditation, self-reflection to just, it was completely different. I learned how to ground myself. I learned what it was like for my individual experience and not within a group. There were moments where I just would create these like sacred spaces in my mind and would just reflect and have conversations with the people that I wanted to talk to, who were like sitting on my heart. And it wasn't like the delusional, like, oh, what if fantasy? It was like, here are the things that I need to get off. The main point of it was to have a reflection piece where I was honest with myself. In the group meditations, there's an objective. With affirmations, you're kind of listening to what other people are telling you. But for the first time, when I sat down and there was just no other noise, there's no other language to digest, it was just me and my thoughts in a positively framed way. Those moments are really where I began to learn myself. And so I would be having these really long, drawn out conversations. I would be feeling sensations in my body. And it was all the things like I consciously didn't really think about, or I didn't believe were that important. And so it kind of like brushed them off, like, you don't need to have a conversation with people for every single thing. When I would sit with myself in my meditations on either a specific subject or a person, or just exploring myself and how I was feeling that week, the time began to extend. It shifted from those 30-minute sessions, those 30-minute sessions, to sessions that would go on for hours. Like, I would close my eyes and go into meditation, and it'd be bright outside, and then I'd come out of the meditation 2+ hours later and it would be dark. But I would feel so fulfilled because I would have uncovered something very, very new. I feel like my meditation experiences were they could come off completely wacky, honestly, but that was very pivotal in my reflection and my journaling journey. And so once things started to kick up and I started to get more involved with life on campus, it shifted from those really long meditations, which I thought I was like, this is it, this is the extent of becoming a yogi, and I'm doing meditation and wellness, whatever, into something that was more accessible for me in the morning, whether they were guided meditations on YouTube and they were more focused on very specific things, whether it be meditating for protection or meditating for peace, like things like that. And so it helped me, the frequencies helped me engage with myself, and then I had the confidence and the security before I started to engage with other creators. And those guided meditations were great. Sometimes I'd do them on a walk, or sometimes I would just sit down in my bed or start off the morning with those guided meditations. And they were just little bits of way of getting me used to being receptive to other types of people, which is key, which is a very important lesson. You have to be anchored in yourself first before you can go out and accept things from other people. And learning how to accept is a skill, and it's something that I talk about in my learning to ask for help video. Okay, moving on. And then it was from there where I started to become more creative in my expression of my meditation practice. And it began to look different. It was no longer the long sit in silence for multiple hours or the listening to people doing their guided meditations, which I'm going to caveat that and just say, be very careful about who you listen to for those guided meditations. I think it's important that you are listening to someone who's creating a very safe environment, that they acknowledge that this is not something you do roaming around or in the middle of your busy workday, and that you want someone who's going to do it with gentleness and care, because you're in a really sensitive state when you're in your meditation, and it's a very vulnerable state to be in, and so you want to make sure you're protected and you feel set. Yes. Anyways, so I started to go expand from there into walking meditations, where I would reflect on the state of the earth and really learn to take in the spaces I was physically embodying instead of mentally going away to different places. And it helps me build a greater appreciation for where I was currently. I think it's very easy for us to take our environment for granted, for a variety of reasons, especially if it's an environment that has hurt us. But it was still very important for me to understand that I was here in this space for a reason. And those walking meditations really helped me solidify that. It helped me anchor positive feelings with a space. It also helped me bring in my body into my spiritual practice a little bit more, instead of having them like completely separate, where I was only working out and then I was just, stagnant and mentally active. And so it felt like so many different parts of me were integrating. So there was that, there was the body scans, which really made me understand what it's like to breathe and feel it in your toes. I will not expand, but it was a really great way for me to, I guess, become more connected to my body and have a bigger or deeper appreciation for it. And it also really helps me combat a lot of those insecurities that I had at the time. A fan favorite for me was starting to lay out in the sun and meditate in the sun. And I think that was also a game changer for me, because I had a much deeper appreciation for the warmth of the sun and just for life and nature. And it was such a, I'm not sure if I'll ever feel that specific type of way again. It was very set in that period, and it just, I don't know how to explain it. It was such a unique feeling and experience. It felt altogether intimate and personal, even though the sun is an inanimate object way, way, way far away from where I was. But if you have the chance to ever meditate with I'm gonna say planet or a specific star or the moon or the sun, just do it. It's definitely out there for sure. But then it led me to my practice of just walking around barefoot. You can do that in some places, you shouldn't do that in others. That's, use your discernment. And just learning to ground myself and getting a finer appreciation for dirt and grass, which as a city kid, I would have been like, ugh. But after spending some time in a green space, really incited my love for said spaces and advocacy for sustainability and nurturing the relationship we have with the earth, because it's just a relationship, a reflection of the relationship we have with ourselves. And I feel that really sums up the entire timeline of my meditation journey. I don't think it's comprehensive, nor can I really explain the full extent to how that really changed me as a person. But it was one of the best journeys, and it is still one of the best journeys that I've taken, because even now I feel like I can have really important conversations with myself without flailing about, or learning to check in with myself before reacting. And there are practical consequences, such as being more patient and leaving space for others and being more emotionally mature. But in terms of my spiritual life and my emotional well-being, it has been a game changer. And so I hope this has been helpful. Just know that no one's meditation journey looks the same, and these are definitely not things that you have to do, but it was just my journey, and it's been great, and I've enjoyed it. So thanks for joining me and sticking with me, and I'll see you next time.